Bonjour.
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 So today we're going to talk to Carline Anglade-Cole, master copywriter in the health field, and one of the more fun people that you meet walking around at AWAI's boot camps every year, and that's how I gotten to know you. And that and seeing your packages around, your many controls. Today, I thought I would like to, we could do an intro for Carline, but we're going to just jump right in and talk about a new book that she has written, because we're going to get plenty of intro to what you do and your background and everything from talking about that. So the title of your book is My Life as a 50-Year-Old Male, 50 plus?
My life.
As you say it.
Yeah, my life as a 50-plus-year-old white male.
Okay. Now, very interesting to me because I am a 50-plus white-year-old male. And doubly interesting because you're obviously not. And that
curly,
is part
curly,
of the,
and tan.
Right. So that's part of the story that's in there. And in getting ready for this, we took a look at the intro to your book. And I'm going to set out those three parts there and give away at least the intro, because I think it gives us a nice format for some things to talk about. So one of the things, or maybe we do it as a checklist. Let's do that. One of the things that's in there and that engaged me first, I'm going to go backwards through your intro, is just this idea of how you, as somebody who's written for the health market, has written for many products for middle-aged plus men. Now, I should let you talk, but it just reminds me of a story that I want to tell, which is that I have written for the financial market for years, decades. But I did for a while try to write for the health market. And I did okay there, but it really was an interesting experience, because you have to, I think even more so in the health market than in the financial market, you have to kind of get right in there and understand what it is that drives people. So I found I was living in Baltimore at the time, still working with Agora in their offices before I had kind of gone on freelance. And I would go down to this health food store that was down in the Mount Vernon area. And I went in, just to try and find out what's going on there. And I went into this store where they had all these vitamins around. And there were these two people behind the counter who were just like pale and tired and sickly looking. And they were talking about how they were each on like the 4th or 5th day of their fasting experience or something. And I don't know why, I turned right around, I left, and I went to a Wendy's and I got a hamburger. And that was, I think, the last health promo that I did. So I found it pretty hard to get in that mindset. So.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But you had kind of the reverse experience, right? So you were working at Philips, and Philips was a titan of the financial industry and growing their health business, and you didn't want to write financial stuff but went into health, right? So I guess maybe we could start by talking about that aspect of it, of how to get into the mindset of those customers, and then kind of work our way back through Clayton and through your own story.
Okay. Well, it wasn't the job. It was not quite that nice of a, where you set it up as far as, I didn't want to write financial, so I wrote health. No, I knew nothing about direct response marketing. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 kids, aged 2 and a half and 1 year old, and needed a part-time job. And the job had to sort of coincide with my husband's firefighter schedule. So he was on shift work. And so I had to find a job that I could work on the days that he was home and vice versa. And that's what I was really looking for at the time. And I stumbled into this job. I saw an ad in the paper for an $8 an hour job in customer service. and for a company called Phillips Publishing. It was an entrepreneurial, financial, direct mail company. And I knew nothing about any of that. All I knew was it said flexible schedule, and then they were willing to work with me. And so I ended up getting the job. A woman named Ann Marcelino was wonderful. She hired me and said, we'll work with your schedule. We like, I like you. And so I got introduced into direct response that way. And through my years of working at Phillips, and then the company now decided to launch a health division, I wanted to get into the health division. I, again, knew nothing about marketing. I had gone to college, but not taken one marketing class my entire career in school. So I just kind of talked my way into getting a job as an assistant marketing manager, for the company. And I tell that story in that book. It gets really, it's kind of a fun story, but I get into that, and but it's all on the job training, of learning how to, write the copy. And so from there, I was 12 years at Phillips, and I spent the majority of that time in the marketing department and being able to, try to learn on the job, learning what lists were, learning who was the market. And I was in a meeting one time when I think I mentioned to you earlier about the Magalogs, when those came out. That was a big deal in the health industry because Magalogs were now these colorful 4-color pieces that you could have all kinds of cool things now in your promotions, and they were working very well in the health market. So we were talking about, they're so colorful, they're so gray, and I'm just like, yeah, speaking of color, where are the people of color? Where are the Black people? I don't see anybody, all I'm seeing are these. I'm like, where are the people of color? And my boss at the time looked and said to me, Carline, we are marketing to a 50-plus-year-old white male market. That's who our customer is.
Right.
I kind of was like, really? I knew people who weren't, white males buying the products, but that was our core market. So all my training was into how do we target this group. And, it was an easy transition to understand why we're marketing to that group, because the health group spawned from the financial marketplace.
Sure. Right.
In the financial marketplace are 50-plus-year-old white guys. That's it. So we were marketing to those lists initially to get our health buyers. And so it's a natural, transition. But I had to learn how to market to them. I had to learn how to write to these folks so that they would know, like, I'm you. He gets me, in that sense, so that I can really connect and be able to make the sales pitch in a way that would make sense for them to say, yes, I want to buy this.
Right. Well, everything reminds me of a story, but it just reminded me of when I started working with Agora, who was a competitor to, and a kind of an upstart competitor to Phillips, was much smaller at the time. One of my jobs, I was working in editorial before I was working in copy, and one of my jobs was to write a book that was a giveaway to one of their products, which was a entrepreneurial, it was a biz op product. And the thing that I had to write was a book called Wealth and Power. And at the time I was in my early to mid 20s, I was living in a small 1-bedroom apartment that was $350 a month. And I was having tuna fish for dinner like 3 nights a week because I was broke. So I was thinking, I'm not sure this is right for this guy who has neither wealth nor power to be writing about wealth and power. And I did manage to do it. I managed to read up on it, read lots of books. I read lots of stuff that was directed to those guys and tried to find out what they were interested in. But it was an interesting position to be in. And I think it's very interesting for a lot of copywriters who are out there because they're not necessarily in the exact life situation of the person that they're writing to.
And you don't have to be. You don't have to be. Yeah.
I think that's the message, that a lot of people think that they'd have to be.
Mm-mm. Well, let me tell you this. Not only was, the white male market was who I was predominantly focusing on. My first job, the first person who gave me a shot at writing copy when I went off on my own, when I left Phillips and wanted to be a freelance copywriter, the first job opportunity I had was when a list broker named Dave Nelson from Walter Carl called me and said, hey, Carline, I've got a client who's got a male potency product. And he just found that a large percentage of his file were actually African-American males. So he had the idea that if he could get a black male writer, then, oh man, he could really tap into that aspect of his list, because he thought he was missing out on these folks because he was using white male copywriters. So he told Dave, find me a black copywriter, a good, that I could use. And so Dave didn't know any. And so he calls me, he's like, you're half black. Can that work? Can you help me with this? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. You definitely need to have a black writer, to get into the black mind and, really get into, I'm like, yes, absolutely. So I talked myself into that job. Like, absolutely. You definitely need this. That's totally bogus. It was so fake. I was desperate. I needed to work. I wanted the job. And so I'm like, you need to gotta have a black writer to do this. And I'm like, man, that was such junk, because the the person who had the control for probably decades for Essence magazine, Today's Black Woman, was Bill Hebden, a 50-plus-year-old white guy living in Philadelphia. I mean, Bill had nobody could beat Bill's packages. I mean, and when Essence tried to find black writers or whatever, even trying to find somebody, nobody could beat Bill. Because Bill was not today's. He joked to me all the time. He goes, "Carline, I'm more today's black woman than you are."
Right.
Because he knew his market.
Well, I mean, it's I'm thinking of two things. So one is Motown. Every week, our kids, we want our kids to grow up listening to good music, and we live overseas, and the music that the kids listen to here is crap. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. I guess it's terrible because we're imposing our tastes on the kids.
It's called parenting. It's okay.
But it's parenting. That's right. So every Friday, I send an email to our kids, and I blind CC it to some of my friends who are into music, that has music recommendations. And when Little Richard died, that I had Little Richard, and then I put some Motown stuff in there, and made those recommendations. And my wife, who's Jewish, was pointing out, she's like, the interesting thing is, like, a lot of this music was written by Jewish songwriters who were in the, down the hall, in the hallway with a piano.
Yep.
And they would write the music, and then that would go out, and then all these great performers would go out and sing it. So, and the audience that bought it was not the audience that was singing it or the audience that was writing it. Right. So, I don't know, I thought that was very interesting. Another thing that it made me think of, though, was I heard a story in another interview that you did, the one with Kevin Rogers, where you mentioned you working with Clayton on a potency product. Now, there were two aspects of it. One was where he told you that you write like a girl and to change it when he was coaching you. But another one where you both had written the promo, and
it's two stories.
You can tell the story.
All right, okay, two stories. Well, the first one ties into that job that I got, because here I talked myself into getting this job to write about male potency. Now I'm in my 30s, and I thought, okay, I'll see if my husband can help me out. And he's like, I can't help you. I don't have that problem. He just kind of he's like, don't give me that problem. I don't want to deal with that. So here I am now trying to write, for men, not only men, white men, but men with potency issues here. And I'm trying to, understand. So I did a draft of the package, and I asked Clayton if he would copy. He would just kind of take it over for me. And he did. And his comment was, you write like a effing girl all over there. And I'm like, but I am a girl, He's like, yeah, but your market isn't. You've lost track of who you're talking to. So he says, now go and burp and scratch and fart and adjust your package and go back and write this thing again. Like, get into that mindset of being a guy, And he, that was just like a real light bulb moment. It's like, don't you ever make an excuse to say, but I am so-and-so. Who cares? Nobody cares. You're the writer. You need to figure out who your market is, and you need to connect with your market. So that's it. Your background. This is a beautiful career to have, a beautiful job to have, because it doesn't matter what your background is, what your race is, what your sex is, what your
what your
economic
age is.
background is, what your age is. It really doesn't matter. It's sort of, can you get into the mindset of who you're talking to? And can you use words that market can relate to, that you form a connection with them, that they got to the point where they're nodding their head while they're reading your copy and they trust you. Right. That's what it comes down to. So who cares? Who cares about all the other stuff? It's sort of, it's so hard for minorities to get in this. No, it's not. It's not. Right. It's sort of, get in it. Don't use that as a reason to say it's difficult, because there aren't that many minorities in this industry. It needs to change, because there's no reason why there couldn't be a tremendous amount of diversity in the industry. So,
well, I think
so that was the one story. Now the second one. Oh, go ahead. You got another story?
I want to, before you tell that other story, mm-hmm. I think so. From the mindset, from that aspect of the minorities, I think it's the mindset, not just the person who's writing who can't do the writing, but also the mindset of the person who's looking for a copywriter, that there's no reason to look for somebody who fits the profile that you're selling to and use that as your basis. I think because what you're really, it's really about understanding what you're looking for in a good copywriter, which is an ability to do that, to be empathetic, to get into that mindset. This is very interesting to me, because I've noticed, especially I think going to those boot camps and meeting all the people who are writing copy, and I've noticed similarities in the personalities of copywriters. Now, I'm biased because I'm a copywriter, but I just wrote about this in one of the Copywriters Roundtables, that a lot of the people that I meet who write copy are usually very funny, very personable, but a little bit shy, but at the same time really boisterous when you get them in a group of people who are getting around telling stories. A lot of them are musicians, or somebody who aspires to write things that are outside of copy, or just have like an interest in the rhythm of language and things like that. Now, I don't think that it's solely like something you're just born to do, to write copy. You can be trained to do it. You can learn it. You can perfect it. But I do think that there's something that just kind of attracts people that are similar in that way. And I think that those aspects help them hear what it is that people are interested in or afraid of, identify those things that are driving them to take action or to feel a certain way about a problem or a thing that they're going to buy. So I don't know what that is. I'd be interested to hear I don't know what to tell somebody. How do you nurture that ability? And just generally as a copywriter, and how do you figure out your market?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with your sort of generalization of a copywriter, stereotype almost, except I find that they tend to be more introverted, a lot more introverted than extroverted. And I think that's where I'm the anomaly.
Well, I actually would have said that, but I thought, as I was saying, I was like, well, Carline's pretty, like, she's a wide out there, friendly, handshaking person, so.
Yeah, I don't fit into that part. So I agree, a lot more introspective. And in fact, most copywriters that I do know personally don't want to deal with people. They grab all the information and then they go into themselves. Right. And then, man, the stuff that comes out is like gold, like, wow, it's really cool. So that's a introspection, I think, that you have, and you can pull from it. You can use it to write copy. I'm the opposite. I am off the chart extrovert. And so I almost don't belong in this industry of these amazing copywriters, because I'm like, I need people around me now, and so that's the difference. But when you were talking about how to cultivate that, I think I kind of have an example. Like in the book, I talk about how my 4 kids taught me how to write copy. 4 lessons I learned from my children that really helped me to write copy. And so as a mom, I have 3 daughters and a son, all 4 very different personalities. And I wanted to teach my children to think, and learn. I'm very big on travel. Even though we were broke, earlier and my kids were younger, we still went places. I mean, we had to just go and we stayed with somebody's house, or we were out camping or whatever it was. We're not staying in nicer places, but we still, I felt having them exposed to travel is going to help them to grow a lot. So with copywriting, certain things, like when my kids were little, I would, like if they wanted a raise in their allowance, for example, they had to write me a sales letter. They literally had to give me a letter to explain to me, what is it that they want, why they should get it, and, justify, for me. And I want reasons why. I want proof elements in here, not because I want it because my friend got a raise, got 25 cents more. No. You had to write it, you had to kind of, and I would have to read it. I said, I don't want to talk to you. I want to read it. And if you convince me from what you've written, you'll get your raise. I mean, it's as simple as that. Then you have,
That's
I said, so if you do it, you've written a sales copy. If I say yes to it, you've got a control.
Right.
You got a winning package here. And I mean, it didn't matter how my son was 7 years old, and he had to write to me why, what he wanted for his allowance and why he should have it and what he's going to do with it. And I mean, so that was sort of inculcating the mindset of, right now, I did this. When my kids were trying to get school jobs, working at, the ice cream place, or they want to work at a fast food place, or whatever. I mean, I'm all for it. Like, yes, I want you to work and earn your money. But I also showed them, I said, now you're trying to get X, whatever you're trying to buy. You're trying to get this thing here. Let's talk about how you can reach that. You could go work 2-3 days a week, making minimum wage, at this job, and it will take you X amount of time to reach this goal. I said, or you can write me a sidebar. Right? I need four paragraphs here. You can write this. If it's good, I'll pay you $100 for it. That, it's like, it was way more than they would give me. If we get that $100 at a minimum wage, 2-3 nights a week, 3-4 hours a night, at a shift. Get it. I said, so you could do this, and guess what? You can go in your room and work on it. Write it all out in your room, and you can figure it out that way. Or you can go sit outside. Or you can work on it early in the morning or late at night, or during the day. I don't care. You have to have it done by this date, and here's what I need in it. Nice. So I did that with my kids a lot. And of my 4 kids, 2 of them are copywriters. Right. One is a designer and a copywriter, and that's Tiara. And then Milan is a copywriter. They're both on their own, taking, working and in the field. They've been doing it Tiara's been writing for about 10 years, Milan about 12 or 13 years. Wow. So it did kind of work because, I was sort of like, what do you want? You don't, and I just said, you don't have to go into that whole, got to work for somebody for 20 years and then go off on your own type thing. I said, I did it for 12 years before I had the courage to just go off and write on my own and do. I said, you don't have to do that with technology the way it is now and the opportunities with AWAI to train you. Tiara was she was in her second year of college and she wasn't feeling it. She didn't want to stay. She's like, I'm bored. I don't want to do this. I want to travel. I want to do my volunteer work. I want to do all these other things, and school's kind of getting in the way. And I'm like, well, you got to support yourself. How are you going to do it? I took her with me to the AWAI the year that they had the design element with Lori Haller and Rob Davis. That was the only time they did that at AWAI, and I took her down with me. And she went and she attended those sessions at the boot camp. She came back. She goes, "This is what I want to do. This is it, Mom. This is what I want to do. I want to learn how to design, And I'm like, okay, well, instead of paying for tuition, let's get you started. Let's get your computer, get your software, whatever you need to do. Let's get started on that. And she learned to do that. And so she was doing design for many years, but then she also knew copy from what I was doing. So she combined them both. And now I'm like, I don't know too many people who can do design and copywriting at the same time. I can't. I'm a copywriter, and I do little stick figures for design ideas. She can do the whole thing. That's so it's almost like, instill it in the kids as you're training them along the way. Just like you got to teach them about Motown. My kids know all Motown songs. They can sing them with us right now. Why? Because we were playing those songs when they were little. That's what we wanted to hear. So it's the same. So that mentality of sort of teaching to, use your brain see things outside of what other people see, connect, keeping it simple. When writers try to go crazy with the, long, big words, I'm like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about, because if you're trying to impress with words like that, then you've lost me. I write to a fifth grade level, period, the end. I don't go above that. As much as I possibly can, I don't. I mean, I try not to, because I don't want to lose anybody by using big words that they got to go look up and now they're bored, I'm not going to offend a PhD by using a fifth grade level.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lose somebody with a fifth grade level by trying to talk with like I'm a PhD or whatever. So.
Yeah. Well, I've heard you say again in another interview where you said you're not trying to impress people. You're not trying to be too smart. You're trying to attract people, which I think is a very good way to put it.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
I try not to actually, you would think I would, all these years of alternative health, that I could have gone to school and learned more about it. I'm like, you know what? I want to stay in my markets. I want to know what my market's feeling, thinking, and talking, and how they're using the words. I don't care. Impressing me is bringing a royalty check with lots of zeros, and that's impressive, but you got to do that by just keeping it real. Just, picking a theme that somebody can understand and they can say, I got it, using simple illustrations that it's like, duh,
Right.
I get it. And if you can do that over and over and over again, you can have a good communication with someone that can take, I write long form copy. I'll take 30 pages of copy that they're going to read before they get to the sales piece.
Yeah.
So I got to keep them engaged. And you can't do that by trying to, talk above people.
Sure. That's why.
I can't stand people like that anyway. So I don't want to be like that.
Exactly. It drives me nuts. I when somebody does that just when they're speaking, I say, now stop and tell me to say that again in English. I don't really say that, but I'm tempted to,
Yeah.
But I read something once that said that when people use that kind of language, the kind of stilted memorandum type official speak language, that when somebody reads that, they actually rate in a survey afterwards. They rate the IQ of that person as lower than they do for the person who writes in clear, easy to absorb, fast language. And I love what you're saying about teaching your kids how to do all the persuasion stuff. Even the two who are not interested in writing copy, our two kids, and we always tell them, obviously we like travel too. And they have been traveling since they were babies. They were on a plane. I think they've both done 250,000 miles of air miles before they were like 7 years old, each one. But we tell them, we want them to find a career where they aren't chained to a desk. The golden handcuffs, where they can move around and work from some place that they want to be, if that's possible, and it seems like it's more possible than ever, and it will be even more possible down the road. The whole world just learned, about at least half of them just learned that they like the idea of working not in the office. So a lot of things are going to change. But the kids, I help run the debate team over at their school, and they get up to do the debate stuff, and I say, look, it's the same as what I do all day. You got to get up there and say something that people got to trust you right away. What you say, you've got 3 minutes or 4 minutes to say it, and try and get one point across, one story across, something that they can engage with, that they can identify with, and say, yeah, that's the way I think too. So, and to that, I take that to when they're working on papers and things like that, we tell them the same thing. You're writing an essay for school or something. It's a little bit the same thing, even though it's school style. But those persuasion tactics, those ways of speaking to people, they apply in everything. So,
well, we'll have to tell you, there's a caveat to this.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Tierra almost failed English class because of me.
Yeah.
Because she had.
Because the teacher wanted the big words.
The teacher wanted the term paper, The teacher wanted all, the certain format and whatnot. And she
Right.
asked me to read the copy for her. Read her term paper.
Sure.
And I'm reading, I'm like, oh my God, this is so boring. I'm like, you need to, where's your headline? Where's this? So I'm just talking to her about it. So she goes ahead and she changes it so that it would kind of fit what I would like. she got an F.
Oh boy.
The teacher's like, what is this? This is nothing like what so she's like, well, my mom, it's like, she said it was boring when the way you want us to do it. And so I had to back off. I just, okay, fine. You know what? Let's get you out of high school first and then we'll forget that nonsense later.
There's no money in writing English papers.
No money. Yeah, go ahead and get that A, fine, but forget that mess. We're going to change that mindset all along.
Okay, so I'm going to steer you back to toward copy. You did say, oh, by the way, someone said I did do a little bit of research before we connected here. You had written something about how you and your husband celebrated your 30th anniversary by taking a year of travel and still managed to write copy during the whole thing.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Now, well, look, that was 7 years ago because we're about to celebrate our 37th anniversry.
Wow, that's great.
In October, it'll be 30. Yeah, I always knew I'd be married for 37 years. I just never thought it'd be to the same guy. I thought maybe 5 years with this one, 18 with this one. No, I'm kidding.
It sounds like it's going to last.
I told him if we get to 50, I may drop off the hyphenation and just use his name. I may just keep the goal at that point.
So I'm gonna use that as a way to steer back to the other half of the Clayton story because Clayton used to say, and I think Bob Bly said this too, that it's important to put an asterisk on the writer's life thing. That all that's true. You can travel around. You can not work for a boss and work on your own hours and all the other stuff. But it is work. Like I want to like sell people on. I don't want to be like, oh, you're gonna make a 7-figure income in your pajamas working 8 minutes a day, the 8-minute work week or something.
Yeah.
No, you do work, and I think it's true that sometimes it's hard to not work. Like it'll be after hours, and you've got an idea, and you've got to sit down and you've got to write it. And I don't know about you, but I can't walk and chew gum. I need to, if I'm writing, I need to shut everything out. So put the headphones in, and that's like putting the cone of silence around my head. My wife comes in and feels like, can I speak? And I'm like, well, that makes me feel terrible, but please don't.
Yeah, let me finish the thought.
Yeah.
Well, the same with me now. I mean, with the Myers-Briggs personality test, I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I'm an ENFP. So I can get distracted about, I can have 100 things going on at the same time, and I can just be distracted about it. I can change. I'm always doing this. So for me to write copy, I actually have to be in my office. I think about the copywriter life, and it shows the copywriter sitting at the beach, sitting with his, on a computer and then watching the beach. I'm going, there's no way. I'm at the beach. I'm not going to be writing copy.
Right.
I'm going to be in the water. I'm going to be. So I have to structure myself to say, come to your play, come to your space. Is writing time. I really have to keep my money time, which is my writing time. Really have to guard that. And but it only has to be about 2-3 hours a day. It's not like it's the whole day. But if I can focus those 3 hours on writing copy, oh man, I can do some serious damage, during that time. So I do have to kind of say, here's my time. Even when we were traveling, I work it out so that when, if it's a matter of thinking of ideas, I can think of ideas and just type those up on on my iPad or whatever and jot them down. But when it's time to write, I need to force myself into my space. Like in my office, this is my sanctuary right here. I do 99% of my writing in my little sanctuary. And it does make a difference. When I was traveling, it took me a little longer to write the stuff because I had, I'm doing all this other stuff, but I would find a spot at some place that I can just say, all right, this is where I got to write for like an hour or two and get it done. It's really important. It is, to kind of stay in that zone, because when you're there and when an idea pops up and you want to work on it, you just got to put that thing down, just get it going, because it'll go away. It'll go
Right.
away, and then you know.
Yeah,
Then,
that's the fear of losing it. That
yep.
is tough.
So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, my
So even when my
sanctuary is
kids were little,
go on.
I used to have a sign on my door when they were, their dad is a firefighter, EMT. Okay, if he's with
Yeah.
them, I know they're in good hands. But my sign was says, "Do not knock on this door unless you are bleeding." And then they got older. When they got older, I added, "From the eye. You have to be bleeding from your eye to come
Right.
down here. If my door is closed, don't call. Don't come down, because I will
Right.
now get distracted and I get into mommy mode. And next thing you know, my day's gone. Oh,
Yeah.
the hours are gone that I need. And then that's the day's
Yeah,
gone.
it takes forever to get back into it. But
But I like how you said,
yeah.
the truthfulness about copywriting. It's not like, oh yeah, you can make, 7-figure income just by, learning to write a few words. I mean, you do have to learn how to write. That's absolutely important. And you can make money writing. But just like any other career, you don't say, I want to be a lawyer, and next thing you know, you're trying the big case after a
Right.
week of getting out of law school. I mean, come on, So same thing with medicine or any other profession. You got to perfect your craft. The beauty is that there's a shorter learning curve when it comes with writing. You can do it very quickly, and you can do it while you are working for smaller clients. And you can kind of make your mistakes on your smaller clients and get better.
Right.
And as then you start moving up on your clients as your skills are getting better. So it's
Right.
not a matter of, I'm going to quit my job and take this course, and next thing you know, I'm an A-level copywriter. It's like, you still have to work your
Right.
craft, but it is doable. That's the nicest, the beauty part of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's use that to talk about Clayton, because Clayton clearly is an A-list guy, and he's the 50-plus-year-old white guy that mentored you according to your introduction.
So we didn't say what the introduction was. That's kind of confusing. So the introduction
right.
was, it starts off by saying it was a 50-plus-year-old white male who got my 20-year-old Haitian mother pregnant. It was a 50-plus-year-old white male who taught me how to write copy. It was a 50-plus-year-old white male market that provided me with like amazing experience that became a career that I wanted to share in my book. So I said, could there be any other name for this book? So that's how I'm setting out the whole
Right.
book. So with Clayton, you know what? If I get emotional, you may have to edit some things out because it's still raw. Clayton was the main copywriter for Phillips and on the financial side. So when
I'm going to say Clayton Makepeace, just for
Clayton
people who
Makepeace.
don't know him, didn't know him.
Legendary Clayton Gerald Makepeace.
Right.
So he was the copywriter for Phillips on the financial side. And here I was working on it was just me, Marshall Hamilton, and eventually Wendy Marsh was on our team. So it was us working on launching the newsletter. Marshall and I launched the newsletter. David Frankie was the editor at the time. So that was our little group trying to get this health and healing newsletter launched. We had no idea it was going to blow and become an amazingly successful story. So Clayton became the copywriter for that newsletter for health and healing. And he wrote a package. Like I said, it just literally ignited the alternative health industry. I mean, his package was doing 4 and 5% responses, off the bat. So
I remember. I actually remember.
Everybody's like, wow, what is going on here? So it was Clayton. So I got to meet Clayton. So I am taking care of the list side, and as a marketing manager, we're doing list rentals and everything. So here we launched this product. It's doing exceptionally well. And so we got to meet Clayton. He came to visit Phillips. And, when I get nervous, I just say whatever the heck comes out of my mouth. I try to control it. It doesn't happen. Still doesn't happen. So I'm like, people keep saying, oh, Clayton Makepeace is coming. Clayton Makepeace is coming, So here he comes in the room. And I'm like, oh, I said, Clayton Makepeace. I'm like, with a name like that, I thought I'd be seeing some, tall Native American guy with a feather in his head, right. And like the whole room went quiet, and I'm like, what? And then Clayton just busted out laughing. He just laughed, and he came over, he gave me a big hug. He goes, oh, I'm going to like you. And I was like, then everybody else got calm. I'm like, did I make some kind of racial slur against Native Americans? I'm like, I said, I thought it'd be some, guy with a feather, not some white. I said, not some, blonde, blue-eyed teddy bear looking kind of a guy,
Right.
It was hilarious. So that was my first time I actually got to meet Clayton face to face, and the most generous person. I mean, oh my gosh, just awesome. He's just
Yeah.
kind, brilliant, and again, one of the, you would talk to him, and you would never, ever, ever know that this man, is the multimillionaire who launched, a whole health
Right.
revolution. I mean, he's wearing his t-shirt and his shirt and his jeans, and except if you look closely, there's a big fat Rolex watch on his
Yeah.
wrist. I missed that, but I'm just saying. So just very just personable. When you talk with Clayton, you are the only person in the room. He is focusing on what you're saying. He is in
Mm-hmm.
tune to what you're saying. He loved learning. He loved music. That was his big thing.
Yeah.
He loved all kinds of music. He collected all kinds of things, from
Yeah, those
guitars.
guitars. Yeah.
Oh, the guitar, and a gun collection or whatever. He just loved life, and he loved people. And so that was just so cool. So now I got a chance. I'm working with Clayton, and his copy's coming, and I get to read his copy. And I'm just
Right.
reading it and reading it. And now there was no AWAI, like it is today, where you could be trained to be a copywriter. No, we were learning on the job. So I'm like, if Clayton said this, I'm going to say this. If Clayton said this, I'm going to, it's almost, he was my
Right.
template for if he got mad, I'm going to say hogwash and get mad too. And, so I just kind of mimicked him, whatever he said and did. And that's how I got to write. I was writing my copy. And so then it became a friendship. Now, Wendy and I were working together. His friendship with Wendy became a husband and wife,
Right.
because she became Wendy Makepeace. But mine, with the three of them, it was just a 35-plus-year-old relationship that we had. And just, I kept saying, I think it's time to make a change in my life, because I feel like, my husband's saying I'm not home with the family enough. My boss is saying I'm not at work enough. I'm like, where am I? Because I'm getting pulled in two different directions. And I told Clayton, I said, I think I want to try to do copywriting for freelance. And he said to me, I would never tell you to leave my biggest client, but when you do, give me a call.
Right.
And that was all I needed to know, and it gave me the guts to go ahead. And when I went off on my own, he helped me get my first client, which is Weiss Research. He was doing the Millennium newsletters for them. And he said, we need someone to help with some list management. And I'm like, I don't want to do lists. I want to write copy, but I want some money. So, okay. And I got into Weiss. And that is how it led to that second part of that story that I didn't tell. Remember, I talked about the potency first part.
Right.
Well, here we are. I'm working with Weiss now, and Martin Weiss is the president. And Martin decides to launch a health division. So he has a Dr. James Balch, who's a famous urologist who wrote the Prescriptions for Healthy Living book, which is like in every health food store. But anyway, so Dr. Balch was a urologist, so we thought we should do a sex package, to launch this product. And so Clayton had wanted to do it, but he told Martin, I'll only do it if Carline joins me in this, because I'm really busy. And so Martin says, fine. So, we get the idea that, okay, great. Clayton and I will write this package together. And that launched what we call the Forbidden Secrets of Sex and Healing promo, which was highly successful. All right. So we launched the product. It's going great. So now we're a month or so later after it mailed, we're all meeting back in Florida, and Martin is just so proud of himself. He's taking all this credit that, wow, he put together this male and female team, and look, we got this successful package that's blowing everything out of the waters. And he's like, I could, you could see this. And because, I read the copy, and I read about the hard hitting, thumping, sheet ripping sex, that, I could tell that would come from Clayton. And then Clayton was like, actually, that was Carline.
Right.
And then I'm like, yeah, and that girly stuff about, lovey-dovey girly stuff, that was all Clayton. That was all him. So we just laughed because Martin's thinking, they got the man. So perfect example of, you don't have to be your market.
Right.
You don't have to be. And so I worked so hard to understand my market. I became much more of the market than Clayton, who is the market. He worked hard on the female side. So Clayton he loved to tell that story. He would tell that story to anybody who would listen to him. That was one of the famous classic stories about You know, you don't have to be the market. You just got to know your market.
Well, that's
So,
there are two copywriters, there are two A-list copywriters who are crossing, like doing the opposite side of the mindset. So it's the
yeah.
that was a thing that we also talked about before we started recording about Clayton and his idea, the resident emotion
Yeah.
stuff. That was the term, right? Resident
Yeah,
emotion,
he's the dominant
dominant
resident
emotion,
emotion. Yeah, he talked
right?
about that. And really what it comes down to is what is keeping your prospect up at night?
Yeah,
You know, and when
that
he wakes up, what is he thinking about? So if you're going to make some kind of grand claim about whatever it is that what your prospect is really worried about? You
yeah,
know, keep peeling that onion, keep peeling it and get down to that core. What is the real desire that person have? You know, so that's kind of what he talks about, is just constantly, if you know whatever the promise is, he'll go strip it down, strip it down, strip it down. Where is it? Where's that angst? Where's that thing that makes him go, oh
mm,
yeah, that's it. You touched the soft spot with me. If you can get to that part of your writing, then you're gonna have a winner. So an example
right,
would be, let's say if you're writing about maybe somebody writing to a market, your market is older, and you have a supplement that's good for memory, you know. So you're going to start off talking about, scientists discover revolutionary new, memory formula that's guaranteed to, give you 10 extra
right,
years of healthy, thinking abilities, you know. Or maybe it's something you start off by saying, did you remember if you turned off the lights before you left the house?
mm,
What about the stove? Did you
right,
leave it on? Can't remember? I mean, some things that somebody can relate, like, oh, did I do that? Or did you walk in the room and forget why you were there? Only
yeah,
walk back out again and come back? Still can't remember why you were there?
right,
I worry about that. I'm like, oh,
exactly.
am I losing it? I mean, the new memory, the big promise can work, but it won't work until you get me on
So you make it
board.
personal,
Make it
right?
personal. So a lot of times we find with my copy, especially in the health market, you can talk about a big deal, maybe something that's going to be great for your heart. But I have one package right now that's a control, and that it was for it's for a circulation product. It's a great product, but we had a big promise about opening up your arteries, all this kind of stuff, and then we tested a cover that's something as simple about rejuvenate your painful your legs. I forgot what the headline, rejuvenate painful legs and feet, or it was something about your feet hurt. And I'm
Yeah,
like, your feet hurt was much more powerful. It beat the opening up the arteries to burst, put blood flow through your
right,
entire, it's sometimes we try to go so big that we forget, no, I know a heart attack may be a problem, a stroke may be a problem, but right now I got this pain in my back I just need to get rid of,
right,
or I just want to sleep a little bit better, or I have this ache here, or the little things. Just I think about it with marriage a lot of times.
yeah,
It's not with marriage, it's not the big issues that really destroy a marriage. It really becomes a lot of the little things.
yeah,
He keeps leaving the cabinet door open, or he forgets to take out the trash. I'm getting so sick of this, and
right,
it's gonna build and build and build to the point you explode, because usually if it's a big issue in a marriage, you kind of come together to try to
yeah,
fix it. So I had a friend of mine who was complaining about her husband the other day. She's like, oh my, he's like always leaving stuff in the sink. I said, you need some big problems. That's your problem. You need big problems.
Well,
Because you're focusing on his stuff. It's not right.
I think that's a very good way to put it, because I like to talk when I talk about copy stuff in like a boot camp presentation or something like that. I like to talk about relationships because it's something that most people can identify with. That they've all had that experience, and it's something that's upfront and personal with them every day. And I like to say that at least in our copy, maybe it's a little different in B2B, which I haven't done, but at least in the kinds of things that we're selling, you're talking to somebody on a one-to-one level. You're talking about to them on a personal level, and a lot of the things that you bring to copy are things that you figure out from how to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
But when you talk about like this thing you're talking about, fixing those problems, lot of those things, the dishes in the sink, the cap off the toothpaste, the toilet seat up, they aren't there is some big problem maybe that makes those things an issue. But addressing the big problem that makes those things an issue right away is just too much. Like people can't think about it in those terms. So like the thing that resonates with them emotionally is the little image that they have that triggers the emotion. So like your thing about the painful feet versus the clearing the arteries, the reason your feet hurt might be because you have clogged arteries.
Yeah.
People don't know people don't go, ow, my arteries are clogged. Right. They say, ow, my feet hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's a good point.
He says, get to that resident, the emotion. What is it? You have to talk that language, because if you say, are you finding that your feet are hurting you more? By 3 o'clock, you got to put your feet up because they hurt so bad. And then it's sort of, you're feeling a little out of breath at times. What about your sleep? You're getting up 3 or 4 in the morning and not falling back asleep. Those are all little things, but did you realize that, those are all the signs that there could be a bigger problem down the road. But, your body's telling you. So nobody really has a heart attack without any kind of warning. I mean, I guess they do, but I'm going to make the argument in some cases say, your body's always trying to tell you what's going on, but are you listening? Are you listening to him? And if you're not listening, then it's going to keep trying to get your attention. So maybe the feet's hurting, and then it's going to be, then you got to, you're not sleeping well. Then it's going to be the energy levels going to drain. You're going to feel drained. All of those are leading to the point like, hey, I'm trying to get your attention here, but you're not listening. So I'm going to give you a heart attack. Now I got your attention. Now you're going to pay attention to me, So, I mean, that's kind of so why not, let's just deal with the smaller things first, because you take care of those things and the bigger things kind of go away. Because
From an attention perspective, I think that if you said to somebody, "Are your arteries clogged?" I don't know.
No,
I have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know that. That's not my stop in the grocery store line headline on a,
Exactly.
But somebody says, "Do your feet hurt?" Well, you might want to pay attention because your life might be in danger. Mm-hmm. That's something. Wait, what? Because my feet do hurt. Oh my God, I better read that article.
Yeah.
Or that promo. So anyway, I think that's a very good insight. There's one we've had you on here for a long time, but the third part of your intro is the part about your own background, and you're talking about your father, who was the 50-plus-year-old man that got your mother pregnant. But you said something when you were talking about that I thought was very interesting. It says secrets you can learn from a Haitian woman. So that got my attention, and I wanted to know what that was about.
Well, in the book, I have, the book is kind of broken up into different sections, and it starts off talking about my background, which I did not realize until later how it really had a lot to do with me being where I am right now. I mean, the career that I chose and and the success I had in there. And I talk about, my family, my mother's side of the family from Haiti. And we came to Haiti when I was 6 years old. I didn't speak, I spoke Haitian Creole, and I was learning French in school, but I really just spoke Haitian Creole. So 6 years old, my sister is 4 years older than me, so she's 10. And so we came to the United States. My mother and my stepfather were trying, they for 2 years, they had to save up the money to be able to get us to come to the United States from there. So I talk about how in the book, I got to spend time with my grandmother, my grandmother, my Haitian grandmother, Mama Da. She came to the United States. She was a seamstress in Haiti. She used to make uniforms for the prisoners in jail. She made the uniforms. And so when she came to the United States, she had no business, but she had a skill. But she couldn't speak English. So here I am now, about 7 or 8 years old, and we would go, and this is in Philadelphia, we would go visit her in the summers. And 7 or 8 years old, she would take us to the market in Philly.
I don't want to stop you, but I have 2 questions for your story. Did you call her Mama Doc?
Mama Doc. No, not Papa Doc.
I thought you said Mama Doc. I was like, that's a little close to home in a Haitian
Mama
story.
Doc. D-A.
Mama Doc.
M-A-D-A. Mama Doc.
And
yeah, her name was Ruth Richard. But we always called her Mama Doc.
I knew that you were from Philly. I didn't know you were
I'm not from Philly. No, I was from Haiti.
I mean, you grew up in Philly.
No, I grew up
No,
in
but I mean,
DC area, in the DC area. But
oh, okay.
my grandmother lived in Philly with my
Grandmother lived in Philly
aunt.
because I
So
grew
we
up in
would
Philly.
go, yeah, for the summers, we would go to Philly and spend our summers with my aunt,
I
my
see.
aunt Yolanda, and my grandmother. So my grandmother, like I said, she had just come to the United States, and but she, she couldn't speak English, and she needed to make some money, how. So we would go to the markets, and she would just tell me to go, and she would say every time she saw an obese woman, she would tell me to go to that lady and ask her where does she get her clothes, and I would go, okay. So I would just go up. I'm like, excuse me, my grandmother wants to know, where do you get your clothes? And I'm telling you, it never failed where I would get these stories about, oh, it's so hard to find clothes. I mean, we're talking severely obese. We're not talking about
Right.
just a little overweight here, right? And so the lady would say, oh, I have a hard time. I can't find anything. It's just difficult, my size or whatever. And then I would tell my grandmother, translate to her what she said. My grandmother would say, tell her, I can make your clothes for you and I can make them look nice. So I would tell them.
Nice.
And that was the beginning of my Mama Da's moo business. And she made moo for large women. And I'm telling you, my whole childhood, she had these people who were like clientele. I'm talking 10, 20 years. And they would come and they would pick out the fabrics that they wanted. And my grandmother would make the moo for them.
That's brilliant.
So I got to learn, first of all, so she's making me go out and talk to people, find out what I'm listening to these people and like, what is it that, where do you get your clothes? Not, are you trying to lose weight or, no, it's where do you get your clothes? It's a simple, talk about something simple, going to that dominant resident emotion, because she knew they were going to have a hard time finding something, and to have it pretty too. It's almost like whatever you can find, you got it. So where do you get your clothes? And that was my grandmother's. So I was like, wow. And I think back about that. I'm like, how can I write something as simple as that? Just what can I get someone's attention, that shows immediately empathy, care, so the empathy's there. I know, so I know you. I understand what you're trying to say here. Without, I didn't know the people. So she used me. My grandmother wants to know. So she doesn't speak English. So I'm translating it. So I mean, that was how she grew the business.
And trust, because how old are you at this point? You're very young.
I'm 7 or 8 years old when I was 7 or 8 years old.
They don't think you're coming up to sell them anything or anything. You're just a cute little kid coming up with a question.
My grandmother wants to know.
So trust and interest, and that's good.
I know. So let me flip that around a little bit. Now, fast forward. My grandmother's 99 years old. And she's down here. She's living in Georgia. She's living around here. And I'm a copywriter. So I take her to Walmart. And my grandmother was very, very, everybody loved Mama Dot. She was just a very sociable woman and just very kind, whatever. So when I would get stuck, when I'm writing copy, I'm getting stuck. And I'm like, I do something. I'd call my grandmother and say, come on, I'm going to take you to Walmart. She loves Walmart. I would take her to Walmart and I would just let her listen to her talk to people. I'd start the conversation sometimes. We're in line or she's sitting down. Somebody comes nearby and said, can you believe my grandmother is 99 years old? And they're like, oh my goodness, what? Wow, that's great. And I'm listening to my grandmother having conversation with these people. And it's just giving me fodder for my, I'm
sure,
like,
where they're talking about their,
whatever.
How do you deal with your foot
Well, how do you look so good? What did you do? Right. My grandmother had great skin. At 99 years old, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, what's your secret?
How do you? She looked at 99. She looked like she could be about maybe 75 years old. Wow. Okay, just give you an idea. I mean, she could move around. She could do everything. So I would take her with me. So I just thought it was payback because she had me going out there at 7, hustling for her.
Sure, it's her turn.
I said, you got to pay up, lady. Come on, your turn.
Right.
So those are the kind of stuff. So in the book, I just tell stories like that where I find a lesson, that I learned, that I apply with my kids. I talk about the 4 personality types, how my 4 kids, the oldest one had this big so what attitude. I mean, just belligerent, just, you couldn't say anything to her if you couldn't prove it. It's like she would dismiss you. It's always like, what? So what? So what? Guess what? That's my market. so skeptical.
Right.
You know, it's like I got to show them, I got to prove to them what I'm saying. They can't just take my word for it. You know, I have to go, here's what the research shows. Here's this. So my so what kid, number one attitude kid, taught me to make sure I address that. You know, my number two kid is my drama queen. You know, it's like she can't have a bad day. It has to be the worst day of my life. You know, I mean, everything is a production, you know. I said, so that taught me in my copy, you know what? Put some drama in that copy, you know, get your villain, get your hero, get your great scene, you know, kind of create some angst, you know, make it interesting, give it a great story. You know? And so I learned that. And my third daughter was my apathy child, the apathetic.
Whatever.
She didn't care. Whatever. No, I don't, you know, hot, cold, it didn't matter. You know, you try to, you know, you give her a pair of tennis shoes, thanks. You know, you take away her, you know, privileges, okay. I mean, it was just like, you just completely, I'm like, I just want to choke her, you know. And I had to realize, you know, a lot of times her apathy stemmed from not understanding what was going on. You know, so she would just act like, I don't care, because she really didn't understand. So when I stopped to make sure she understood what was needed and what we wanted, I got results. Same thing with the market. You know, you try using these big words, guess what? You lose them. You know, so keep it simple. Just get the point, make it over again, make it over again, make it over again so they get it. So that is how you deal with the apathy in the copy. And then my son, my fourth one, was just my clown. You know, it had to be every day. He had to have some kind of fun. It was, you know, got up every morning like, what can I do to have some fun today? You know, and that was kind of, you know, so I just said, have some fun in your copy. Add puzzles, add, you know, tease them, add, you know, add games, add trivia. I mean, those are, you can do all that because it's interesting and it keeps your market or your prospect glued to your copy and get it going. So I told my kids, I learned a lot. I didn't plan on, you know, I wasn't planning to be a copywriter when I had them, but it sure paid off. So I took advantage of what I was training them and teaching them, and I was doing it with my copy too.
All right, so let's let you set you free from this.
Well, you said,
interview.
"Oh, Carline, we'll talk about 30 minutes." I'm like, "No, we won't." Forget about it.
But it's been great.
I love it. I mean, I wouldn't see you this year at boot camp, so that's why I said, "Yeah, I'll totally do this. I get the chance to see you now."
So why don't we talk about you talked about how to get the book and things. I don't want to turn this into a sales pitch thing, but I think sounds like a great book.
You have to turn it into a
sales pitch.
Come on, I'm a copywriter here. No, honestly, the book is my my life as a 50-plus-year-old white male. It is going to be on Amazon and it's on pre-order right now. The book comes out August 26th. We're launching it. But we have pre-orders right now for it, so kind of get a nice big boost for Amazon to say, "Oh, somebody likes this book." You know, they've been waiting for it. So what I'm doing actually is saying, first of all, I think you're gonna like the book. I really do. I think you'll laugh. I think you're gonna learn. It's gonna help empower you. It's gonna have some great stories that you can use, not just in the health field, but it can be used in other fields too, especially if you're a writer or a marketer. So what I thought, you know what, the book comes out in another 3 weeks, but I want people to pre-order now. So I came up with a special report that I have. It's called I wrote down 27 kick butt headlines to crank up your sales copy cheat sheet. And what I did was I went through and I looked at what is working right now, and it's in the health market, but it really can transcend into other markets. What is working out right now with my copy, and so I pulled together all those headlines, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to give this away. If anybody who wants a copy of it can have this one. If you just order my book, and then pre-order the book. So you go pre-order the book, and then if you do that, you send me kind of proof of order that says, "Hey, Carline," just say something like, "I want in Carline" on the subject line. It sounds cool. "I want in Carline," and then if you do that. And show me the proof of receipt that you bought the book, I'm going to put you on my Copy Star Easy list, which gives you all kinds of great tips and whatever. And I will send you the special report, the 27 kick butt headlines, to crank up your copy. It's a cheat sheet. It really is not like a heavy duty book. It's just, you can put that thing next to your computer And if you're stuck for headline ideas, you can just look and say, let me try this headline, just change these words around. So it's been fun. I thought, I'm offering it to, your listeners. They can definitely have it, but it's just a way of getting something now instead of having to wait for the book in 3 weeks. It
sounds great. It sounds like a good book. Could you, your Copy Star, is that the best link to give people?
Well, actually, my website is CarlineCole.com. So CARLINE Cole. If you go to my website, then my e-zine, so you can sign up for the e-zine up there if you wanted to. But like I said, if you want the special report, we'll automatically go ahead and sign you up for the e-zine. But it really is just get the book. Get the book. I'm telling you, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love the book. It's fun. And by the way, in the book, I talk about promotions and stuff that's worked, whatever. And it's like about I think $950 worth of promotions that I am going to give away for free in the book. And you'll find out when you read the book, you'll find out how you can get it. But
that's great.
It's my way of saying, obviously you can tell I'm not writing this book to make money, because I could sell those promos for $950. The book will cost you $10 to $15 depending on what, format you want it in. But it's just a way of saying, hey, this is stuff that's helped me. I know it can help people. I know it. So here it is. You can use it and see for yourself.
Oh, great. Well, I'll put that link in underneath the video.
Perfect.
And I'll post it when I go, and I'll post it on the screen, so it shows up right somewhere. People point to wherever it's going to be.
Tell them go to Amazon to get go to Amazon to get the book, and then my website is Carline Cole. This is great.
It was very nice. It was nice to talk to you. Hopefully, some miracle will happen, and I'll be able to show up in Delray Beach and I'll hang out and all that stuff.
I'm okay with waiting. I'm all about safety,
Sure, me too.
I think Rebecca and Katie and Denise and Jade are doing a great job, sort of, kind of fixing it up to make it still viable for us to learn and teach with copyright, but yet keep people safe.
But the opportunity will come. It'll come.
Yeah, I think we'll be doing we'll do more Zoom meetings too. That can work. But it'll be great to be able to get back together, because those seminars, the boot camp is that was a highlight of the year to be able to attend those or speak at them. So I agree.
All right. Well, it was great to see you, and thank you so much for giving your time and all the stories and everything. It was a lot of fun.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, John. I appreciate it. And take care. And say hi to the other family.
I will.
They're poor family living in Paris. Poor family.
Okay.
And we'll share some Motown songs with the kids. I can do that.
That's right.
All right. Take care. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.